me, Jenny, and today I wanted to make a video about how to do a YouTube outro in Blender. And of course there's many different ways to do certain things. I'm just really excited because I started learning Blender when 2.8 came out, so I'm by no means a pro. Put that out on the table and get that out of the way because I'm quite a noob in a lot of ways, so let me know if I could be doing anything more efficiently. But yeah, I'll just let you know how I would go about making a YouTube outro in Blender, and hopefully you can get some value out of this type of tutorial. Alright, cool. So the first thing that I would do is reset where my camera's at, fix all the rotation, and leave the scale at 1. On the z-axis, just bring it all the way up, and actually I'm just going to type in 6 right here, 6 meters. And I just remember that offhand because I was trying to remember when I have a default cube, what's the quickest way to get into some type of graphic design template mode. Normally I like to do something like 1920 by 1080, but some people are doing 4K these days. I mean, I haven't really tried pushing the limits in Blender so much as I have made an effort to do the things that I would normally want to do in After Effects, 3D Max, or Kitty. So I just happened to memorize, for me, I really like to just reset everything and pull the camera up on Z. And then I'm going to go ahead and start altering this original cube right here. I'm going to press 1 on the numpad to go to a front orthographic view. And then while I've got the cube selected, tab for edit mode. I'm gonna just assume that you know how to get around. If you see any shortcuts that you wanna know how I did it, just look down here. This thing right down here is called shortcut VUR. If ever you're trying to get this thing in Blender where it shows your keystrokes, then you just go over and add this add-on. Add this badass add-on, and that's how you do it. When you hold down control is when you can snap. Top view and then the toggle x-ray, and it's also alt Z. We've got this now enabled where you can toggle x-ray, and 0 on numpad is your camera view, A for all, and then S for scale, and then X to constrain on the x-axis. And then let's just like go just a little bit beyond our camera view with that cube. Hey kitty. I don't know how I got so passionate about making intros and outros for YouTube, except for that one of the coolest ways that you can make your channel unique and stand out is to make custom artwork for it. Whether you make your own intros and outros or whether you commission an artist, I think that it's really a nice way to add a personal touch to your channel. And honestly, some people really go all out with their intros and outros, and I am seriously amazed and impressed and inspired by some of the intros that I've seen. I aspired to get good with Blender and make an even more badass intros and outros. As much as I love the digital art stuff, a lot of my free time is spent trying to grasp C# and Unity. I'm really inspired to make some cool 3D animations. Now that there's the grease pencil in Blender, I'm also really inspired to do some awesome like actual drawings. The really cool thing about grease pencil in Blender is that you can draw in 2D and or 3D space however you want to draw, and it's really just such a cool feature that I can't even wait to get into it more. 3D sculpting and the grease pencil are two of the features in Blender that I was really looking forward to having an awesome drawing pad for, and now that we finally have one, I'll definitely be making more of an effort to learn those features and also to do custom hand-painted textures for models and who knows what else. But right now I'm still hung up on intros and outros. I want to make a handful of custom intros and outros for myself and others to use because I'm always loading up new YouTube videos, and it's just nice to have a handful of options for when I'm doing the intros and stuff. So we're still in edit mode, and we can say tab to get the edit mode, and then Z for which view do you want to see this in rendered view. If your computer is more of a potato than it is a computer, then you may not want to be looking at Blender in rendered mode, but I can't even remember so far back in my life, but I do remember it faintly in the distance. I tried to bury it deep in my subconscious, but there was a time when my laptop could not even handle like the simplest things. Like rendering out of After Effects would take just hours on end, and it was so depressing. I would cry myself to sleep every night. But now we're living in the future. We're using a Lenovo Legion gaming laptop, which is pretty much sufficient for what I'm trying to do. But I'll be honest that there's a part of me that would love to raise enough funds to get a nice beefy laptop, just like set it up, have like another station where we can do VR and like other stuff that requires higher power. But right now we're making intros and outros. I almost started to forget why we were doing this mundane shit when we could be making video games and stuff. I just wanted to make at least a walkthrough on how to do this type of thing because this is like one of the first things I was really learning how to do and having a lot of fun doing in Blender, and I thought that anyone else that's just starting to learn Blender might have fun with this too. So I'm turning off x-ray mode for a moment, and then I'm going to take this and then G for grab, I'm just gonna go like this, and then top view, camera view, and then there's no material on this yet. Let's get out of edit mode and then go over here to the materials tab. By the way, these tabs might be slightly different colored because one day I found the area where you can go over here and you can adjust your preferences so that all your entire UI is in whatever colors you want. So I went through and made everything as pink and purple as possible, but you can change your colors however you want. And there's themes if you can't think of your own themes. I don't even want to mess with this too much right now because I like the way it is, but I did spend like a whole like half a day or full day once setting mine all nice like this. So how was it? Oh, yeah, interface. And then under themes, you can go over here and change everything. You just have to open these folders under themes and then you can adjust any and all these colors of your UI and stuff. So if you don't like the colors the way they are by default, then you can come over here and what is this for? Non-linear animation. Sometimes like I'll change these and then I'll realize later that I wish I hadn't. So like I don't remember changing any of these to orange. I probably just left them by default orange, but maybe they're just easier to see when they're orange. I don't know, I haven't even gotten there yet. Most of the things under preferences are great just the way they are, so if it's not broken, don't fix it, or whatever they say. Under the materials tab, we can add a new material. And I'm gonna double click and rename it. I'm gonna say background color. And good thing I named it exactly what I was thinking so I don't forget. My future me would thank my past me. That's what we're thinking about right now. Alright, so we got this awesome color. This is our first material. I got problems, so everything I make is always purple to start off, and we'll just go from there. Sometimes you might change these settings. You might notice that it may or may not even have a difference that's being made. So if you don't need to like change a bunch of these numbers, like don't go turning everything up to like full blast if you're not actually even noticing a difference. That's one thing I noticed because whenever working on a budget, even with my computer working on a technical budget, like if my laptop could only handle so much at certain points depending on... okay, let's select the light. Also, if you want to always have a nice view with your camera, what I would do is go up here and hover until you see this little plus and then drag it out. And that way you can have two views, and this one will always be our camera view. That way when we're getting our example... you know, we're using perspective view for everything else, but we'll have this little view preview up here what it actually looks like in the camera. There's our camera preview right up there, and also you can press Z and rendered view. Unless you're on a potato, don't forget, because if you're on a potato, that might break everything. It's usually not that bad, but seriously, if I was trying to do some of these things on my old computer, I don't even want to know. I don't want to know what would happen. Frightening just to think about it. Alright, so this is just our first default light, and how about we reset the light here actually. We'll say on X, and then we'll pull this up just a little bit. That kind of gives it like a nice gradient that's created by a light, and that's really nice. Which is beautiful. So then we can change the color of our light to whatever we want. And also we can animate the color of our light. But one thing that I've been trying to do, ever since I was definitely hardcore in love with After Effects. So I was like, how am I ever gonna get into something as much or more than After Effects? Probably just never gonna happen. But then I realized that it's just way more fun in the 3D environment to mess around with the lighting and the cameras, mainly because I always wanted to get into photography and I just didn't have enough money to go buy like tens of thousands of dollars of lenses and camera equipment. So I was always having fun like trying to work with other people and do collabs where other people had the cameras and I could help doing other stuff. Sweet. Alright, I don't know. For right now, I'm gonna just imagine that I'm trying to make a nice little intro, outro. I guess we're doing an outro. We'll just leave this default light down here and maybe make it a little bit more blue. Alright, now that we have saved our work, now we can continue forth with our lives and not worry about what's going to happen the next 5 minutes. You never know when things are going to crash, but in my experience with Blender autosave, it's actually really good. I've never actually lost my work. So normally in a YouTube outro, I would imagine that the best things to put on there would be frames for the end cards, if you're probably going to add end cards to your YouTube video. So there's usually like a couple of rectangles and a circle or two. You can put up to 4 end cards at the end of your YouTube videos, so they're either going to be circles or rectangles. You can keep that in mind when you're designing your outro. We could totally be using just a regular plane, but we have this as a cube just because, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I might want to get crazy. I don't know. The default cube. Good old fashioned. You know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to go ahead and create a plane. First of all, I'm going to make 2 frames for the end cards, and I'll start off by just duplicating this rectangle that we have. And then I'll scale it down, and I'll bring it over here and scale it down a little bit more. They're kind of small. Okay, and then G and then Z, bring that up. I'll make this so that maybe there'll even be a natural shadow from the light casting onto here. Very natural shadow. And we'll add more lights later. Usually like shadows would be like casting down, but obviously like from whatever direction the light is shining, then the shadows are going to cast in that opposite direction. So we'll have multiple lights, but right now we just have that original light, so that's why the shadow looks crazy like that. I'm gonna do Shift D one more time, and then G for grab, Y to constrain, and then C to snap. Those 2 are right there and looking good. I'll just rename these now, that way like I don't forget, you know, what they are and stuff. We can make a different material and assign them to these frames. And just click on the plus button right here. Different objects may have multiple materials, and that's why you can add a bunch right here if you wanted. But we're just gonna add 1 for now, and then we'll press new, and we can rename this end card material. So we'll just make this, if you have multiple objects and you wanna transfer the material that's on one of them to all the other objects, then what you gotta do is select all the objects that you want to have the same material as that one object. So I selected, say we want them all to be the sea green, then we'll grab the purple ones, and then this one is the last one, and then click on this little down arrow and say copy material to selected, and that's how you would copy, you know, to all of those. But I'm gonna go back. I just wanted to show you that because one time I was like, how do I do this thing? I figured it out. That's how you do it. It's really helpful. I use that all the time. So I'll just make this maybe, I'm trying to make it complimentary and not gaudy, and just trying to make it look good, you know, not like crap. I don't know. I'm not sure where this is going, but we can just roll with it. How about this? I'll go Shift D again, and then I'll say again scale, and then scale X a little bit for frame 1 and to go into front view, and then scale Z. Cool. So this, wait, this and then this. Let's try to make the inner one the same color. Okay, there we go. Now we got some interesting frames. Those are way more interesting already. So these are going to be the end card frames, and we can just try to be as creative as possible because now's our chance, you know? Now's our chance to make the coolest end cards ever. One thing that I did is I took a reference photo, and I will import that right now so that we can reference the size of the actual end card. Just go to File, Import, and then go to Images as Planes. Maybe there's a way to make it more visual in the Blender file view. I really wish that I could see a preview, because normally what I'll do is I'll go over to my Windows Explorer, or my Windows, and I'll go over here and search this way. And so I will copy this location, and that's how I come over here. We'll bring it up right here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, buddy. Oh. So this is what it actually looks like when you're on YouTube, and I had to take a picture of that so that I wouldn't forget. We will scale it instead of raising it on that axis, that way we can get the light. Oh my god, why is it going? Wait, there we go. Okay, now we got a much better idea of like where exactly is this gonna be. I'll delete that one, we had already done that. This just happens to be a screenshot of the last end, one of the end cards that I have. One of them has this Blender playlist on it, and that just happens to be the thumbnail of that playlist, but that's not my video. This is just my reference image really quickly of the size and shape of the end cards. So a way to attach 2 things, and plus you don't even have to have 2 objects here, but we're gonna have these 2 objects anyway, is you could go basically click on the first one, then click on the second one, and then Control P to parent to object, select object right there. And then I'm gonna say G for grab, and then I'm gonna move this, okay, and then S for scaling a little bit. So right now the pink one's parented to the purple one, so the inner purple one is the one that we will be grabbing to move around and stuff. Select both of these cubes and M for move to collection, and then make a new collection. We'll say end card frame. This is just to help me organize my stuff over here in the hierarchy. Shift D to duplicate, and then G, Y, and then maybe these are actually a little bit too big. All right, let's just scale that down a little bit. All Alright. Let's get those back on track. I just want to make this smaller because this is actually, that was actually a little bit too big, so. Cool, so our reference has done us well so far. Next, I'm going to make a circle for over here. And I'll do that by, first of all, placing my cursor right here in the center. And then pressing Shift A and then mesh and then I want to do cylinder. Before you press add or before you press enter, you can go over here and say radius and adjust that right here. And you can add or subtract the vertices here. So you can make triangle, you can add right here whatever you want. This is really fun. You don't even have to think about the polygons until you're in the millions and stuff, but usually these are really cute options here. And then we'll add a material to the circle. Well, actually, it's a cylinder because it's 3D. We're going to make it so that... actually, let's go ahead and make it so that it is the same height as our end card screen situation. Let's go like this. Scale on Z, for the love of God. This is pretty close. Alright, this... So I'm just making sure that the cylinder and these end card screens are the same height and that the top is the same, you know, especially the top is the same height because it'll be casting shadows on our background and I just want to make sure that it looks kind of consistent. And so we want, how about we want this to be the same, we'll say purple. So then arrow and then copy material to selected and then grab this, go into top view. Move it over here and then S to scale and then Shift D and then Z to go up and then select and then arrow and then copy material. There we go. Now we got some nice little matching colors happening, little intentional color scheme happening. Alright, cool. So we're pretty much done with this reference image and this reference image is just from a different end screen that I had done at a different time. So whoa. Yay! Alright, it's looking nice, I think. Right now we got these nice little components. We got the end cards, we got the cylinders here. I'm gonna link these. I don't know if I really need to link these, but it's just kind of nice that I can grab onto these like that and they're all linked. Since we have them all nice and organized in this collection, we can turn them on and off and decide whether or not we want to render them by clicking on this little funnel icon and choose this little camera. And that's where you can decide whether or not you can render this. So you can choose whether or not you want to render these. We'll do a really quick test render. Oh, right now everything is rendering including our reference image. So I'm going to go ahead and... where is that reference image? Reference image, and then I'll turn that off and turn it off on the render as well. For my own personal sanity. This right here, I think it looks way more dramatic in the render preview. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get it right. We'll get it looking just the way we want it. Maybe I should have put my camera a little bit lower so that I could have all this stuff grounded. Bada bing, bada bang. Just select all and then bring them all wherever the hell you want them. Alright, well this already looks just fine. Maybe I'll move this over just a little bit. So one thing that I really like to do is to have a few unique looking lights. And so let's go ahead and duplicate this light right here because this point light's great. We could even turn this down to like 500 or something. It's just nice to have some, and then some radius maybe, add a little radius to that action. Bring that up a bit. And wait, let's bring this up to 5 meters. Okay, so there's that one nice light. Say you want your outro to be... I usually like my outro to be about 10 seconds long or 20 seconds long if I have credits and other stuff like that. The longest period of time that you're able to make your end cards visible on your video is up to 20 seconds. And the video has to be at least 25 seconds long to be able to put an end card onto it. Just keep that in mind when you're making this end, your end screen. I usually do 30 frames per second, but I guess I could do like 60 frames per second if I wanted. But for this, we'll just keep it at 300 frames. 300 frames is 10-second long outro. So what we can do is we can start by adding a keyframe at the beginning. And what I'm gonna do is to my camera, I'm gonna make it so that I can't select it by going like this, clicking on this little arrow. And then making it so I can't select it, and also so I don't have to look at it. So other than that, we want to select everything, and we will press I and then say insert location rotation scale, and that'll add right here a keyframe that is good for all transformations that we might adjust later in our timeline. Whenever you have your first keyframe perfected, then you could say Control C and then go to the end, or type it in right here. Go to the 300th frame or the 301st or whatever. If it's looping, just go one extra frame, but if it's not looping, it's fine right here. So I'll just say... One thing that I like to do is add a parent, and then we can parent these things to an object, an empty object. Now I'm wishing that I had rotated this stuff earlier. Alright, I'm gonna make another light by pressing Shift D, and then I'm gonna make this one pink or something. So what I'll do is I'll say, I'm gonna delete this keyframe. So for each object, you can add keyframes here in the timeline, and what I'll normally do is I'll press I to insert keyframe, and whether it's location, rotation, or scale, it just depends on what you're about to do with it. I'm gonna press this right here, location, rotation, scale, and then at the end of my timeline, I'm just gonna drag it to where I want it to be at the end, and that'll be right over here. Also, if you have the record button on, then that would automatically put a keyframe there, but instead we'll just add that, same way we did with the first one. So it'll go by real slowly over the course of 10 seconds, and that's what it would look like. Just a nice animated light, super kind of slow and subtle, really nice looking. Also, we can add different lights too, it doesn't have to be the only one. So we'll take that original light again, Shift D, and at the beginning here, hold on a second. So let's just make sure that the one that we have selected has got keyframe where we want it. I'll just delete that one if I'm unsure. We'll just, for example, press on the record button, and when you grab onto this and let go, then it'll make a little keyframe automatically for you where it is located. And then this one, we can go down here. And same thing, we're gonna move it. We're gonna just animate this one across. Sometimes you might want to make it exactly the opposite amount of distance on X. And so you can go over here and type in here and just like go back a couple and then press delete on that little, just delete the negative symbol and press enter, and that will put it at the opposite end on the positive side of that axis. And so now we got two animated lights, and we can change their colors however we want. One is kind of coming down sideways, and then the other one's coming across. Just like as an example of something that we can do with lights that's pretty easy. You can make it way crazier. For a while I was really just kind of interested in how could I make stuff that would be like what I would want to do in After Effects, because as we all know, After Effects definitely comes with a price and Blender's free, so it's kind of pretty interesting to me to try to learn out how to do certain things. Like sometimes I still find myself wishing that I was using After Effects for certain features, but the more I learn about Blender, the more I appreciate it, and also the more things that I learn about how I can actually accomplish pretty much whatever I want. So Blender's freaking awesome. Don't ever underestimate Blender. Alright, I want to move this. Oh great, so we still have record on, so just grab that one keyframe, put it back to the first or 0 keyframe, and then over here at 301 with that one object selected, backwards for a second, top view, G for grab, and then I want to put it over here, and then let's see what this looks like. I'm saving. Don't forget to save your work. It gets way too pink in the middle. Changed my mind. Alright, so 7 for top view again. Put it like over here. I don't know. I don't want it to be so damn bright. And we can do different things like animate texture on these boxes. So to add text to your scene, go ahead and put the cursor wherever you want that text to be. I would press Shift A, add text, and then you can edit that text by pressing Tab, and then I would say A or Control A for all, and I'll just say Jenny, Nexus or whatever, and then over here you can choose your font and just figure out where your fonts are on your computer, normally under C drive, users fonts, or something like that. Luckily I have an extra folder with all my favorite fonts because our main fonts folder has like a whole ton. I would just choose over here. Oh wait, my favorite font. There it is. This is actually my favorite font. It's a Google font, so anyone else could use this too. It's the font that I use on my website too, and it's nice to have a clean, aesthetic, recognizable theme, I guess, on your channel. Feeling like, I don't know if anyone else notices the matching font, but I like knowing that my font matches. Okay, under extrude is how you would make the text nice in 3D. And I'm gonna go ahead and make this about the same height as the pink one. Wait, I don't know. .02 is always non-offensive 3D. It's not like too in your face. Also, I'm gonna change my size a bit, and the size, you just gotta scroll. Size, I always forget where the hell the size is. Here it is. So there's extrude, and then just a little bit down beneath extrude is the size, and wherever your anchor is basically, if you use this here size, you can scale it right here with the size, or you can also just scale it by pressing S. And if you have any social medias, you might want to add those to your end screen. And this font, does this have a material on it yet? Not really. So actually, let's put a different font material. It'll be a bit more of an emissive material, this white text. Pretty much you can add whatever you like on here, and that's the glory of the customization for the end cards. This is like my type of ideas. What I would do on here is I would add like a circle here, a couple rectangles there, got the name of the channel, and then if you want to add any links or anything like that, now is a great chance. Right now all we have really is the lights animating, but it's a really pretty color scheme. We now have some text that we've added. Just looks like this, so it's kind of like pink and purple. It's got a green light that kind of animates around. So maybe at 0 you don't have anything yet. Maybe you want it to transition onto your video, like a slider transition. And we can totally do that, no problem. I'm gonna make that empty object by, first of all, putting my cursor right here. Shift A and then empty, and then go to cube or whatever you would like your empty to be. I'm gonna just scale my cube down so it's about that big, or a little bit smaller even. Alright, I'm gonna grab these and then we shall parent them to this cube. I'm gonna grab onto these two blue ones and then grab onto this and Control P to parent. That way when we grab this one, it'll bring both of those along with it, and the blue ones on the top were already, these frames were already parented to themselves on the blue one on top, so we just like parented those to that empty object. Also, we'll make one more empty object over here. Same thing for the circle. Empty cube, and then S for scale, and then these can be whatever the heck scale you want. So whatever you're comfortable with, pretty much. This, and then that, and then Control P to parent. And that way we can animate these in using these empties. We'll just add keyframes for these cool empties. So let's just say at 0, they are both off screen, but as soon as they get on screen, they're going to be exactly where they're at. And it's 30 frames per second, so 30 frames down will be 1 second. Let's just say 1000. That would be the amount of time it takes for these to animate on. So we'll say grab these, and we'll say I for insert, location, rotation, scale, and get on to 0, frame 0, and we will drag these off individually. If you want, now would be a good chance to click on the record button and then just drag this off wherever you want it off the screen. Same thing with this one. Something that I find to be kind of fun is using different types of keyframes. And if you select your keyframes right here and then right click and say keyframe type, under interpolation mode you can choose some really fun options. When you have the keyframe selected and you right click, and then under interpolation mode you got some fun ones. I really like these over here, the dynamic effects, elastic and bounce. Sometimes these will make things look weird, but usually they'll make them look fun. Sometimes they'll bounce on in. Like that is completely out of control. Let's not do that. Let's choose bounce. I think that's the one that I was trying to choose. Boing. Yeah, that's the one that I like. Alright, so that one is, it's just like a nice little, takes 1 second to bounce on in. And we could just say the same thing with the name. We'll say I for insert, and then at 0 we'll have it off frame. And then what does back look like? That's kind of cool. It's not nearly as bouncy. Let's try that for these ones too. Back. Alright. Alright, cool. So pretty much those come on within the first second. Actually, I want to choose these two empty objects as well as the text and grab all of these keyframes. Once I've got them selected, press G for grab and move this to almost 1 second in. At frame 20 is when these will start to animate on, because before that, we're going to go ahead and animate in this background. And we'll say I for insert at frame 20, and then at frame 0, we'll have it off screen altogether. This is our camera view, so we'll go like that. We'll have it animate. Wait, let's have it come down from the top. I know, let's get creative. I know, let's get creative. Because I kind of want a rotation, but I want it to like come off the screen. And so let's rotate it and scale it. And then also G for grab and get it off that screen. And then see what it looks like when it comes on. Whoa! Alright. How about at this frame, it can also be pretty scaled. What does it look like then? Oh, that's kind of cool. So this way it would come in as a cube from the side. Just looks like that. But the one problem with that is that when we scaled it, then it got so big that it's going to be above everything else. So we'll just make sure that on both of these keyframes that it's going to be beneath these other ones. I don't know how to paste attributes of the keyframe just yet, but for this right here, I would just literally come over here and paste that attribute that we had. And then let's see what it looks like again with our camera view. The preview is a little bit slower than what it'll be once we render it out, so the rendered version will actually be 10 seconds along this timeline. It's super chill. I mean, it's really basic. There's nothing crazy. There's some lights happening. I kind of feel like this light over here, now that we've come this far, I feel like we could do a little bit more fun alterations here. Like, let's move this light way up here, and I want to make this radius a lot smaller, and then turn this up to like 700. Maybe it'll be a little bit more noticeable that this green will be like this, you know? And then I'm just going to grab this, delete that frame. I don't want that frame anymore. And then I'll bring my cursor over here, and then I'm going to take this G for grab, X for constrain. Oh, it's like not even. I'm gonna turn down this intensity to like 300 and bring this down now. Oh, let's see if that helps. Well, I don't even know how I got to be so particular, except for that I realized it didn't even really look green, just like too washed out. So I'm gonna make it a little bit more green. So hopefully it's a little bit more noticeably green. And then I for insert. Then back at 0, 0, 0, whatever. Now we got that green light. It's a lot more concentrated at the edge of... I don't know. I'm just trying to get creative here. That's what that looks like when it's that green. I guess the other lights are really washing out that green light or something. Alright. Don't forget to save your work, friends. I'm pretty happy so far with what we have, and you can kind of get the idea, like at this point, how you can make any type of customized adjustments with different text and different animations. You can add little keyframes here and there. Kind of like the plain materials. Sometimes I really like to have it where it's not so plain. I think that's good for now. If you wanted to fade it out at the end or something like that, you can do that. But I personally like to just leave up the end cards for the entire last 20 seconds of my video. Here's a good basis for some ideas for how to do an end card. And I hope that you found some inspiration from the video. Thanks so much for watching. And if you enjoyed it, let me know. And yeah, I'm open to suggestions. So if you have any other good ideas for future videos, let me know. And I'll see you next time. Bye, friends. Oh, so cute.